The Irish Red Ale is simple in theory. It's smooth, malt driven, has a beautiful, rich red hue. But that deep red colour, the perfect balance between sweetness and a dry finish. It all comes down to a precise step mash. Something I've never done before. Can I rely on my ability of temperature control to manipulate the structure of the beer itself, or will I ruin an Irish classic?
The reason I'm making an Irish ale is, as I was going through the malt barley my brew shop had, I noticed something called redback malt. This was a fantastic opportunity to try a new recipe, or at least a new style, something that I haven't really had too many times before. I'm going to start with 14 litres of water, have my strike temperature at 56 degrees, and hopefully that protein rest will be a perfect 52 degrees Celsius. So we've ended up hitting 55 degrees instead.
Get it? I swear I had the math right. I should have just dropped down to 52 degrees, but just...
I'll be using 1 kilo of ale malt, 1.5 kilos of Vienna, and 600 grams of this redback malt. Now, on the website of Gladfield, it did say not to exceed more than 15%. This is about 20% of my mash, so hopefully it doesn't cause too many interesting flavors. I gotta say, one of my favorite things about brew day is just smelling that fresh malt barley. If you're a beginner just like me, one tip I've heard is actually use what are these called? Use a whisk, and that's gonna break up a lot of your dough balls for you. I found some betadine, so I wonder if that'll work if I try and do a starch test. Oh, I don't. Might work. My protein rest is gonna go for 15 minutes, and what that should do is break down some enzymes, or create some enzymes. Hang on, I had to research this, I'm not actually really sure what it does. So my protein rest is gonna go for 15 minutes. That should activate those enzymes, and that's gonna break down those protein chains. Dun, 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 dun. Keep us together. 15 minutes is up, so the next step is to get it up to 64 degrees Celsius. And then we'll leave that for 40 minutes for a beta amylase rest. After reading more into a protein rest, there was a section that said when not to do a protein rest. Hopefully, my malt hasn't been too modified where I've broken down the proteins too far and end up with kind of a watery beer. Otherwise, the opposite effect is going to be a fuller body and aid in head retention. So that would work out really nicely. So let's see how my head retention goes with this beer.
I do have head, just not a good one. The beers is fine.
Yeah, what else? What other information did I just learn? I learned something. I found a solution, by the way, to give my beer more body, is do a longer alpha amylase rest. So apparently the alpha amylase is going to make long chain sugars. It's going to make long chain sugars, and what that should do is increase the body and the sweetness of the beer. Hopefully the sweetness comes out of the red malt and gives, well, the flavour it says on the website is kind of like candied prune. So that'd be intriguing. See how that goes, and if it blends well with the hops that I'm going to use. So we've got the beta amylase rest going for 40 minutes at 64 degrees. That's going to get all those juicy fermentable sugars and make that sweet succulent beer. With the completion of the saccharification,
I have learned how to pronounce saccharification. The conversion of sugar.
We're now going to heat this up to 70 degrees Celsius, leave it for 20 minutes, and that should complete our alpha amylase rest. It tastes real, well, of course it's going to taste sweet, but it has what is that? Kind of like a weird kind of, not sour, but like a tart? I don't know how to explain what I'm tasting. For the 60-minute boil, we'll be using 10 grams of beautiful Pride of Ringwood. In the last 10 minutes, we'll be putting in 20 grams of beautiful traditional Hallertau hops, along with 5 grams of East Kent Goldings. Oh, just fantastic. Just with those hint of honey and spice at the end of there. So far, so good. My gravity is 1.052. My aim was 1.058. So after the boil, I wonder how close I'll get it. Let's see if betadine works as iodine for my iodine test. Yeah, it worked. I assume it worked. It stayed gold. Can't really see it because my camera's focusing on my face. My apologies. Anyway, all my starches have been converted. Woo! Just for efficiency's sake, I'm actually skipping the sparge. Mainly because I hate doing it. Let's see if I can lift up 3 kilos of malt barley plus work. Oh god, that's right. No, you shouldn't squish the bag because of the tannins, but like, I've never noticed. Don't do it, don't do it. Am I gonna sparge? Something I learnt was actually clean up the mess you make before you start boiling, because all of that welds to the stove itself. 20 grams of hallertau, 5 grams stop, 5 grams of goldings. Yummy! Oh, it smells so good. Hey Google, start a timer for 10 minutes.
Alright, 10 minutes. Starting now.
That's a big bag of hops. I've ended up skipping the flock just because I'm going to put all of this in the fermenter. Oh, she red. She red. Drum roll, please. Mavity is at, holy doly, 1.062. 1.062. We're over by 0.04. Cool, I'm gonna add in about 500 mils of water and that should cool it down a little bit further. Sitting at about 30 degrees at the moment, so second gravity reading is, added too much water, it's 0.045. No, that's probably about right for an Irish. Bugger! Bugger! Being an Irish ale, Nottingham yeast will be the perfect addition to this beer, so chuck that in and give it 2 weeks. We're gonna leave that to ferment for about 2 weeks. Once it's slowed right down, I'm gonna dry hop it for about 8 days with some Fuggles and East Kent Goldings. Give it that nice aromaticness that it needs.
That's sitting at about 18 degrees Celsius.
But I must have really efficiently converted those sugars because it is fermenting quick. It is day 7 of fermentation and it is completely slowed down. I'm going to be putting in 6 grams of Fuggles and 16 grams of East Kent Goldings. So the reason I'm using those weird varied amounts is because I'm just trying to use the rest of the hops that I have before they go off. Fantastic smelling though. I was planning on putting it somewhere warmer to do a diastole rest, but it has been fermenting at a solid 18 degrees, so I don't think I will have to put it upstairs where it's nice and warm. We're going to dry hop this for 5 days and then we will package it. So see you now. So after 5 days of what I assume is a very successful dry hop, let's have a look how my Irish red ale has turned out. It's quite sweet smelling, like very fruity. Yeah, it's really fruity. The color on it's pretty good. It's not actually that bad. I thought it'd be a bit of a deeper red color, but I assume once it's matured, that clarity is going to come a little bit with it as well. Ooh, it's quite sweet. It has that kind of like green kind of aftertaste. It's not too bad. We'll see how we go with this. I'll package it up and then we'll let it mature for about 2 weeks. Just going with ye old sugar drops. That'll do fine, but let's crack on. Done the first bottle. The colour's a bit better. What am I smelling there? I'm smelling honey. Is that the EKGs? It's got like a bit of like a sour is probably not the right word, but like a acidity, I reckon, which is because I used way too much red malt. It's quite nice. Use that to check my ABV in a bit. 7 bricks or 1.026 for the gravity. So if we chuck that into a refractometer calculator, hopefully that'll give us the ABV, which is... I just put my camera away and you're not going to believe what happened. The tip of my filler came off and it's in this bottle. I lost probably half a litre of beer just then. What the actual hell? Don't tell my missus, but I'm using a tweezers to get this out. It came off. That's just come off into my beer. I don't know what to do right now. Do I just put it back on and just keep risking it? Now I've overfilled this one. Great. Sterilise, baby. I'm just at a loss. Props to myself. I reacted really quick and put my finger over the funnel before I lost too much beer, but still, so annoying. I just want to get onto kegging. I just haven't built a system yet. I'll get there, I promise. I really want to get into kegging. Let's package the rest of these and hopefully that doesn't happen again.
I think the real question here is, have I left it long enough in the fridge for the CO2 to dissolve into the beer? Yes. Yes, I have. The first thing I can tell is that the head has huge bubbles in it, which means it was probably unnecessary for me to do a protein rest. The redness is rich, like it's very, very amber, but it is a beautiful red color. Aromatically, it's quite sweet. And when I say sweet, I mean like honey, but I can kind of smell, not honey, what is that? Kind of like caramel and toffee, so good aroma there. Now, because I've done this protein rest, is the body of the beer gonna be really, really thin? Short answer, no. Ooh, it kind of coats the inside of the mouth really nicely. I don't want to say slimy texture, velvety, that sounds better. It's got a nice velvety texture on the inside of the mouth. Got quite an acidicness to it, which I reckon's come from the red ale, and it's kind of giving it that pruniness, which I'm gonna say is probably a fault in this beer. But overall, tastes good, looks good, probably did not need a protein rest for this beer. As you can see, the head is almost completely gone. The great thing about a step mash is it actually teaches you a lot of things, and it gets you ready to try new things, like a decoction mash, which I did before I learned how to step mash. What an idiot. Click here, see how well I did, and I hope to see you again very shortly. Cheers!